Okay, let's take a look at number 16 on homework 7. This is another first derivative, second derivative question, and I'm going to warn you ahead of time just so that you can prepare yourself. Don't get nervous. Don't worry about it. The algebra on this one is going to look a little ugly at certain points. There are going to be lots of terms. There's going to be some simplifying we have to do. But I'm going to take this really nice and slow so that you're going to be able to follow along with what I'm doing, and hopefully it's all going to make sense by the end. So they're giving us a function, g of t equals 4t squared minus 1, and that whole quantity squared, times 6t squared. So I've got two functions that I'm multiplying by each other. That means I'm going to have to use the product rule. So to find g prime of t, I'm going to have to write this a little bit small because there's a lot to fit on this line here. Okay, so we need the first function. So that's 4t squared minus 1 squared times the derivative of the second function, because we're just using the product rule right now. So the derivative of the second function, I'm going to bring the 2 down and multiply it times the 6. That's going to give me 12, and then I need to lower the exponent on the t, and that's just going to give me t to the first, which is the same as just t. Okay? So this is the first function times the derivative of the second function. Now I need to add the second function, so 6t squared times the derivative of the first function. This is where it's going to get a little bit messy looking because we've got to use the chain rule. So there are going to be a few pieces, but it's not bad. We're just going to use the chain rule on this first function here. So chain rule says bring down the exponent, so I'm bringing down the 2, copy exactly what's inside the parentheses, so 4t squared minus 1, and then lower the exponent on that. So that's going to bring that 2 down to a 1. I could write the 1, but that's the same as not writing anything at all. So we'll just leave that blank. And then we need to multiply that times the derivative of what's on the inside. Well, the derivative of 4t squared is going to be 8t, and the derivative of negative 1 is 0. So we just leave the 8t. Okay? In the past, when we got to this part of the derivative, I told you just plug it into WebAssign exactly the way you see it on your page, and you're going to get it right. And the truth is, you could do that now, but we need to find a second derivative. So we're going to have to clean this up a little bit because I wouldn't even want to, oops, I'm missing a parenthesis here. I wouldn't even want to start thinking about finding the second derivative of this guy because I've got some products and I've got some chain rule. And if we simplify this, if we take the 4 steps it takes to simplify this, we're going to have a much easier function to work with for our second derivative. So let's go ahead and do it, bite the bullet, and use the power of algebra. Okay, so we've got this 4t squared minus 1 squared. We're going to have to FOIL that bad boy. So 4t squared minus 1 times 4t squared minus 1. And all I did was take this 4t squared minus 1 squared, and just expanded it so that I'll be able to FOIL it in the next step. I'll just go ahead and copy down the 12t. That doesn't really need any simplifying right now. Let's see, what do we have here? Plus sign. I'll copy down the 6t squared. I think I could probably multiply that 8t times the 2, so we'll change that to a 16t, and then 4t squared minus 1. Okay, so things don't look a whole lot cleaner yet, but I promise it's about to get, first it's going to get a little worse, then it's going to get better. Okay, so we need to FOIL this, and when we FOIL that, we're going to get 16t to the 4th, okay, because I multiplied 4t squared times 4t squared. So that gives me 16t to the 4th. The inside term on this, you might need an extra step to do this, but it's going to be 8t squared. Basically, I took 4t squared times negative 1 plus 4t squared times negative 1, and that gave me negative 8t squared. And now I need to multiply the outer terms together, or the last terms together, I'm sorry. So negative 1 times negative 1 is positive 1. So I've got that. times the 12t. Let's see, what can we do here? I can actually, at this point, multiply the 6t squared times the 16t, or I could distribute the 16t over this guy here. I think what I'm going to do is multiply the 6t squared times the 16t. So if you have the same terms, your numbers are going to be a little bit different. We're just going to multiply these guys together. So I have 6 times 16. That's going to give me 96. T squared times t is going to give me t cubed. Okay, and then now that I've taken care of those two, I'll just bring down the 4t squared minus 1. Okay, already starting to look a little cleaner. And honestly, we've got 2 more steps left at this point, so it's almost done. Let's go ahead and distribute this 12t. 12t times 16t to the 4th, and you might need your calculator. You're probably going to need your calculator for this stage. That's going to give me 192t to the 5th, okay? I multiplied the two numbers together, multiplied the two variables together, and that gave me 192 times t to the 5th. Now I'm going to multiply that 12t times the negative 8t squared. That's going to give me negative 72. It's going to give me negative 96t cubed. Okay, so 12 times negative 8 is 96. Last time I checked, negative 96, and then the t squared times the t is t cubed, and then plus, we'll multiply these together. That gives us 12t. So what I did here is I just distributed this 12t over the entire function. So that gave me 192t to the 5th minus 96t cubed plus 12t. Okay? And then let me go ahead and distribute this 96t cubed over this function here. And again, it's not going to be pretty, but we're going to do it. That gives us 384t to the 5th minus 96t cubed. Okay, what I want you to notice right now is that we're not dealing with any chain rules anymore. We're not dealing with any product rules anymore, because we took a little time to simplify this. And if we take it even one step further, it's going to be even easier. But because we took the time to simplify this, now we're just going to use the power rule, which is so much easier to deal with. So let's go ahead and write down the simplification, because we've got two terms that have t to the 5th. So we can combine those, and that's going to give us 192 plus 384 is going to give us 576 t to the 5th. So we've canceled out these guys. Let's look at our t to the 3rd. We are going to be able to subtract. We've got negative 96t cubed minus 96t cubed. That is going to give us negative 192t cubed. Okay, so these are canceled. And now we just have the plus 12t hanging on. Okay, it took us a while to get here, but it's going to pay off in the long run. So g prime of t is equal to 576t to the 5th minus 192t to the 3rd plus 12t. Okay? Take a deep breath, because this next step is so much easier. Okay? So I'm going to change markers so that you can see we're working on a different function now. We need to find g double prime of t. To find g double prime of t, we're just going to take the derivative of g prime of t. So we're just going to take the derivative of this. Again, we've just got a regular old polynomial. There are no products, there are no quotients, there's no chain rule. We're just going to use the power rule. So 5 times 576 is going to give us 2,880 t, and then lower the exponent, to the 4th. 3 times negative 192 is going to give us negative 576. And we're going to lower the exponent on t, so that's going to be t squared. And then the derivative of 12t, no calculator necessary, is going to be 12. And that's going to be the answer for g double prime of t, or the second derivative of g of t. So, we started with a function. We had to use the product rule and the chain rule on that function. And then because we knew we needed to do another derivative, we had to do some simplification. The simplification, probably not the most fun time we've ever had, but it was really going to pay off in the end because we wind up with something that we can just use the power rule on to find the second derivative. You will want to use your calculator on this. You will want to pay attention to minus signs so that you don't forget to include a minus sign somewhere. And I encourage you, if you're getting caught up in the algebra, to just follow along step by step with the video. Pause it, make sure what's on your paper looks like what's on my paper, and then if you still have trouble, shoot me an email and we'll work through it.